Hello, good morning. This is Lee Brower, and welcome to this week's edition of Meaningful Monday. I am grateful to be here, and I am glad to be here. You know, there's a scripture in Proverbs chapter 23, verse 7 that says, "For as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." Now, I have tried over and over again to understand how I can think within my heart, and what's helped me is when I go back and look at the scriptures and I replace the word heart with the word subconscious, oftentimes, can't do it every time, but oftentimes it seems to make more sense for me. Well, think about the subconscious. As a man thinketh in his subconscious, so is he. Well, how do we think and what really happens to our subconscious? Our subconscious mind is aware of everything around us. And it's constantly being bombarded with negativity, isn't it? I mean, just yesterday I found it very fascinating. I was watching a news report on the election. And they were showing statistics of candidates based upon how many mentions they had received in the press. So they were showing all of the candidates, and since they were comparing them to, say, before the last debate, after the last debate, etc., using that as a gauge to show how many times they had been mentioned. And they were focused on the differences in just numbers of mentioning, but on that screen they also showed the fact of how many were positive mentions versus negative mentions. And I found it very fascinating that for every single candidate, there was much more than 2 times the amount of negative mentions in the press than there were positive mentions. 3 times, maybe 4 times as much. This is the world that we live in, a world of scarcity, a world of victimhood, a world that is constantly seeking something better, a world that's constantly saying to itself, I'll be happy when and I'll be happy if. I'm going to talk to you about the brain, and I'm going to talk to you about the empowered wealth mindset and why the empowered wealth mindset is the alternative to this negative mindset that's out there today, and how the empowered wealth mindset, how we can measure it, look at it, and make it better, will actually carry us through and actually allow us to live a more meaningful life, a life that's on purpose, a life that brings us more happiness, more joy, more gratitude. You know, in our desire to have a positive mind, everybody seems to want to force it. As you come to that powerful mind, say, how do we force it? But the reality is, what science is telling us now is that our own neurons can actually do the growing for us, that they're actually wired and designed to grow for us. We've known for a long time that the brain is very malleable. Like, you know, we've known about neuroplasticity, that the brain changes, can repair itself, do a lot of wonderful things. 2 things that we know also that we can do now that we know with our mind. One is we can let it control us. By that, I mean just relaxing and just letting the negativity flow around us, letting our thoughts go, but not being proactive. So the other thing is we can let the flow control us, or we can control the flow. So how do we control the flow? And this is really interesting. This is from science. Science is telling us that that we can get those neurons growing, when we get that positive mind growing, that it will grow in a positive direction. If it grows in a positive direction as opposed to a negative direction, it will enlarge your strengths. It will shred the negativity from your past. It will increase your creativity, your intelligence, and your joy, and just the overall capacity to feel good. Now, how long can the brain keep this up? You know, until recently, neural science and neural networks in adults have been thought to be something that's fixed or unchangeable, something that's unable to regenerate. Not so. Current research has shown that the formation of new nerve cells, it's called neurogenesis, doesn't begin and end in the young mind. It takes place throughout life, throughout the adult life, all the way till the day you die. It's a matter of how you nourish it, and a matter of where it's going to take you. Are you going to be in control of it, or is it going to take you? You know, research has shown that there's about 100 billion neurons in one human brain, and they're connected by 100 trillion synapses. These are living cells that think. They think on their own. They think automatically. That's how our bodies are run, and this is from generations of improvement and changes and things, and being impacted by our own experiences, the things that happen around us, and our own thoughts. But we know that we can think on purpose. We know now that our thinking on purpose actually affects then our neurogenesis. So what is this potential? Think about, if you have 100 billion neurons and 100 trillion synapses, that equates to a number of interactions, the potential interactions for that exceed the known molecules in our known universe. So how do we promote this? How do we promote this neurogenesis? And this is where the empowered wealth mindset comes in. Because all of the science is lining up with if we do the things that we know we do to have an empowered wealth mindset. Now we've identified 8 measurable characteristics of an empowered wealth mindset. We've identified those characteristics and they're measurable, they're 8 measurable characteristics of an empowered wealth mindset. And we're going to talk about that in future Meaningful Mondays. But right now, let me just tell you, how that works, what science is telling us that the basics are on how we can improve that. One is continued curiosity, ongoing learning, physical exercise, gratitude, being able to nurture that more positive mind through gratitude and being active in gratitude, having frequent experiences that generate positive emotions. And as the arrows are flowing out, we develop more meaningfulness in our life as we get a deeper meaning in our life. Can't you see that lines with the empowered wealth mindset? Imagine having a system now where we can measure 8 of those great characteristics that impact all of the others in a way that we can grow and learn from those. Think about what would happen if our culture, if our society took this seriously. Would culture change? Would our society change? Instead of being a culture of victims, always comparing, always chasing, always wanting to get something better and woe is me, imagine the culture of moving into that positive mental attitude, that empowered wealth mindset. Is it possible then that this one glorious thing that we've been promised, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, could really be within our reach? The empowered wealth mindset embodies our greatest opportunity for living life, enjoying liberty, and then living in happiness. I look forward to talking to you more about this in the future. Have a marvelous week this week. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.